Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, and you're still on the Nile cruise. In the world of Egyptian visual arts, the few names command as much as respect for capturing the pulse of our streets and the heritage. As the great artist Samir Foad, a master of expression and the movement, his works has always been a mirror to the Egyptian character. And today he joins us to look at the Farouk Hosni's the museum, not just as the gallery of the shapes, but as a landmark for our national power. Welcome, Dr. Samir. It's a pleasure having you on Nile Cruise.
Thank you.
Doctor, you came from the arts, from a background of the engineering and the logic. How does the analytic eye perceive a space that is dedicated for the entirely freedom of the abstraction in the visual arts?
Well, it's very hard to define how engineering influenced my perception or my critical appreciation of art, because predominantly before I joined engineering, since I started, I was an artist. So I think I went to engineering, as a diversion, but I'm an artist through and through, and that's why I dedicated myself to art, 20 years ago, 24 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Looking at this event, which I think is a very important and a landmark in our, plastic art movement, which is the establishment of Farouk Hosni Museum.
Mm-hmm.
Number one, it is a museum which is dedicated predominantly to the art of Farouk Hosni and his collection of Egyptian or foreign art. Number two, it is designed and executed at a very, very high standard of either display, lighting, or space. So it is an example of how a museum should look like. Yeah, something which we, lack in Egypt. Of course, the gem, which was opened recently, mm-hmm. which is again linked to Farouk Hosni because he started it, and it was his effort which led to it. Again, the display is very professional and mm-hmm. very high standard. So, the two are setting a standard for the display of art.
Mm-hmm.
As for abstract art, if you want me to talk about Farouk Hosni's art specifically, then of course Farouk Hosni's abstraction is one of very few in Egypt which represents, I would say, our area's abstraction. He comes from Alexandria, mm-hmm. and you can see the influence of Alexandria on his art. You can see the yellow of the sand, and you see the blue of the sea and the blue of the sky. You can see the calm, there is no violence, there is no,
peace.
It's peaceful.
It's
very peaceful. And the space here as well is very peaceful. Mm-hmm. It's very appeasing, and you sit here and you look at the piece of art, and you're very calm and you're very appeased.
Yes, your work is deeply rooted with the Egyptian figures and the daily life of the Egyptians. When you visit Farouk Hosni's the museum, where do you see the Egyptian identity here in the museum which we are located in?
Well, number one, it's very difficult to define specifically what is Egyptian identity.
Okay.
Because Egyptian identity varies from Upper Egypt to the Delta, to the Nile Valley, to the northern coast. Mm-hmm. Each part of Egypt has got a character of its own. So if we imagine that Farouk Hosni was from Upper Egypt, you would have seen different yellows and different greens and different shapes from what you see here,
in general,
right?
Yes.
But because he comes from Alexandria, because he is a Mediterranean-minded and Mediterranean taste, he's got this Mediterranean taste, the Mediterranean spirit,
We could
then
see the blue.
you can see this. So I would place him as, the Egyptian identity, which is to do with the Mediterranean. And we must remember that throughout the ages, if you look at the history of Egypt, Egypt was divided between two: a Mediterranean culture, which was, it was a Greco-Roman, so it was related to Greece and related to Italy or the Roman Empire, and so and after that, it's always kept its links with the north, with the Mediterranean countries.
Yes.
So we have this character, which is different from the character of Upper Egypt, which is linked more to the south, to the African art, to and so on.
Okay.
So I would place his identity as the identity of the Mediterranean culture.
Yes, well, Dr. Samir, as a leading authority on the watercolors in the Middle East, as we know all, how do you evaluate the use of the transparency of the light in Farouk Hosni's work and art?
Well, this is very, very apparent, actually, because he uses acrylic colors rather than oil colors.
Yes.
Oil colors are very dense, and they are not transparent as such. And when you use the oil colors, there is a certain technique. On the other hand, because he uses acrylic is water-based.
Okay.
And it is very, very related to watercolors. So his technique, and when he does watercolors, is, it shows his ability to, use the media and control it. When he uses acrylics, I think the link between watercolor and his acrylics is in two domains. The first domain is the liquidity and the translucency of the colors, how he uses, the colors, and he makes use of the transparency of the colors, of the liquidity, the translucency, and the malleability of the color.
Okay.
And number two, the tonality as well.
The tone, yes.
The tonality of Farouk Hosni is very water-like, and you can imagine in some of his paintings that he's painting water. One of his paintings reminded me of Monet, the water lilies.
Related to his basic
So,
from the Mediterranean,
I would
Alexandria.
say that, very influenced by watercolor, even if he doesn't use watercolors much.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, Dr. Samir, also the museum displays the personal collection of the other great masters here, as we can see. What does this can relate or tell us more about the vision for the collection that is being displayed here in the museum?
Well, this enriches the museum for starts.
Okay.
So you can see Mahmoud Saeed, you can see Hamid Nada, and you can see so many of the and foreign artists as well.
Yes.
So the viewer or the visitor to the exhibition does not come here and is restricted to Farouk Hosni's pieces of artwork only, which is, I think, would have been enough.
There is a variety
but
of
there
other
are
masters.
so many sides in the museum. Number one, there are all these pieces which are, shows his taste of collecting art.
Okay.
I'm not claiming that these pieces is a panorama of the Egyptian art. No, it's
a
not.
part
It shows
it
his
shows-
taste,
Yes.
how he approaches the art of other artists.
His collection of
His collection.
choices.
But on top of this, there is a big library
Okay.
which contains, big names, all the big names in the art world, and a documentary, film documentaries as well. So there are so many aspects in the museum.
Okay, well, Dr. Samir, also, how does having a private foundation of this scale of art can strengthen the cultural identity of the Cairo's historic and the in general?
Well, we've got to start the Farouk Hosni competition, right? Which is, I was lucky to join it right from the start. The competition is established to support and encourage and discover the young artists of the new generation. So this has got a direct influence on the scene, the art scene in Egypt. But as an exhibition for a visitor, if he Egyptian visitor or a foreign visitor, when he comes here, he will see one side beside the other art pieces. He will see one side of the Egyptian art, so it will strengthen or it will establish his appreciation of Egyptian art through the eyes of one of the famous abstract artists of Egypt.
Well, Dr. Samir, also some people find the abstract art as a foreign. How can this museum help the public taste of the citizens here in Egypt to realize the abstraction of the arts and actually part of our ancient history?
Well, I think we misunderstand abstract art, you know, because abstract art is the distillation of the visual language of an artist. You know, he reduces the elements of his visual language to the basic elements, right? Line, color, and space, and so on. But if you look back to our history, you will find that the art of the ancient Egyptians is more or less abstract.
Yes.
I mean, if you forget about the figures, you know, the way they treated the figure, the way they repeated the figure, the way they put the elements, you know, whether it's hieroglyphics or other elements like, you know, daily life or other activities, and combine all this in one visual scenery, more or less they have to respect the abstraction of the scene.
Yes.
So I think abstraction is rooted inside our spirit.
Yes,
right?
for sure, especially.
So now, to say that it is foreign to us, I have you know, an objection to this.
Yes.
I think it is within our spirit and
That's
our
great, yes.
yeah. But of
That's
course,
a good point, yes.
the language we use now as artists
Yes.
is mostly a language which is we have borrowed from the Western civilization, right? But we modified it to represent our civilization.
Yes, for sure. Dr. Samir Foad, thank you so much for this great interview for the Nile cruise. And ladies and gentlemen, a short break, and we'll be right back to continue our segments. Thank you so much.